Welcome to the Wonder of WOO podcast, where we highlight how businesses can scale profitably by serving others well. I'm Daryl Zavadny.
And I'm Ed Howie.
And this is
the Wonder of WOO. If you're a business owner investing time, money, and marketing only to be frustrated by losing customers, then this podcast is for you.
We are thrilled that you are here for the Wonder of WOO podcast, where we celebrate the rewards of serving others well. And Ed, we talk all the time about intentional kindness and consistent service as really not just feel-good things, but they're actually excellent business principles.
They're not only the right thing to do for humanity, they're totally the right thing to do for your business.
Indeed. Well, today's episode, Ed, is talking about something near and dear to your heart. That's travel and all of that. We've termed this episode frequent flyers versus one-time guests. And
oh, wow.
So how many airline miles do you have? Pick your favorite airline. How many do you have?
Really? You want to go there?
I do. I'm curious. Yeah.
So Delta, 2.4 million miles.
Okay.
And United, 1.6 million miles.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, that's a lot of travel.
Oh, wow. Well, obviously the point in this episode is not to talk about Ed's travel and to catalog all the places that you've been. The point of the episode is to take that principle and apply it to business owners who are part of our community.
Whether you've traveled once, never traveled, or travel a ton like I do, the airline business is a great ecosystem to learn by and to use not only just from a case study, but the universality of it, literally, is remarkable. And so I think I have learned a lot about business, not only through my travels, but through the experience of traveling as a customer on airline.
Right. Well, and so before we dive deep into this frequent flyer thing and how any business owner across any segment might apply what you've experienced, I want to raise up for the benefit of our community just one more time and talk about the title, this cryptic thing called the Wonder of WOO.
Exactly.
And just maybe contextualize this conversation.
For
so
sure.
What is the Wonder of WOO?
So the Wonder of WOO stands for the wonder of winning others over and over. And that wonder is sometimes confusing, but when it happens, man, is it magical.
Yeah.
And so winning others over and over is based on the belief and the truth that the most profitable customer you have is the customer you have, which is like dead center of what we're talking about today. And that you're either intentionally serving them well or you're not.
Excellent segue to this industry, which you and I talked about, is probably the best at understanding, and perhaps not always perfectly executing on, but understanding maybe these categories of customer. And I hate to say that, but we even playfully talked before we came on set here that we might even tease our community here with the notion that while we are to honor all customers, create consistent brand experience, that we might even encourage or prompt, challenge you to think that you might not need to treat all customers identically. And that almost feels like that's sacrilege, right?
Right. It sounds like you're creating a caste system where you're saying that there's one customer more important than the other.
So is that what we're saying?
Well, we're not saying create a caste system, but we are saying that some customers are more important than others. Now, what we're not saying is that some customers don't deserve to get what they paid for.
Right.
That is not WOO. That is poo. That is really that is the definition of poo. You didn't give me what I paid for. Mm-hmm. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. And contextually, just poo we've defined, of course,
it's poorly orchestrated, poorly operationalized, poorly optimized.
Right. And the middle schooler in us enjoys it.
Exactly. We can go all kinds of lane, maybe there'll be some outtakes or whatever. Yeah. But so let me give you an example on that. The first step in poo is you didn't know what the customer wanted. We use food examples all the time. If I order a thin crust pizza from Papa John's, my favorite, with pepperoni sausage and extra sauce, I'm expecting to get that whether I've ordered 100 or 1.
Right.
And if I'm a first-time customer that is only spending that $8.99 with you, you better give me the pizza that I ordered for $8.99 because I told you what I wanted. So that, you know what I'm saying? So we're not saying, we're saying,
Well, and, you know,
however, if I've ordered 1,000 pizzas and you know it because you have that data attached to my cell phone because you know what I ordered last time, right? And you don't acknowledge it, then you're pooing. You're creating poo because you're creating self-sabotage, right? Because you're not taking this golden opportunity you have to love on maybe what we should be saying is you need to love on customers, some customers even more.
Yeah, and maybe even what I heard you say is there is a baseline of expectation in every industry and every product of, you know, with every service or product delivered, especially in this economy, right? You know, high inflation and you know, hyper competition, that that customer has worked very hard. You and I as consumers have worked very hard for our money, and so they deserve a consistent and excellent product. So
That's table stakes, right?
Right, yeah. So right, what we're talking about is the difference between table stakes and this increased level of care. And so maybe share for the benefit of our community, if you don't mind, how that might manifest in the airline industry, both in a positive way, and then maybe places where even that industry, who I esteem as being really quite good at that, you know, where that has maybe gone sideways. And you know, for the benefit again of our community, the point, of course, is not to do because we think everybody owns airline industries. The point is to say there are always learnings that we can take from any industry.
Sure.
And so, first, where has it gone well as a frequent flyer, multiple airlines?
Right.
Tell our community where that has gone well.
Yeah, you know, so for people more or even less familiar with it, basically the way the airlines work is you can join their frequent flyer program at any time they want you to. It is a way to create a direct customer relationship versus you buying a ticket on Orbitz, if Orbitz is still around, or all that. I guess, Sarah, that they want you to buy through them ideally, but whether or not that you have your frequent flyer number attached to the transaction,
Right.
so that they can then tally how many trips you take, and the more dollars you spend or miles you flow, more it's getting to be more dollars and miles. But either way, the more time you and money you spend with them, the more valuable you are. Because you know what? That is a universal truth for every business.
Sure.
Unless your transaction is an unprofitable transaction with a customer, or frankly, as we know, there's some customers that maybe you don't want to be a little customer, right?
Right.
Well, that's a whole nother episode. If you join their frequent flyer program, they can know exactly how much you fly and how much you spend. And basically, there's different tiers. The more you fly and spend, your silver, gold, platinum, diamond, plutonium, supersonic, galactic, all that kind of stuff. There are classes, if you will. So maybe there's a caste system, but there is classes.
Dangerous is categorizing it that way,
Exactly.
but I understand.
Exactly. But there's categories based on the loyalty and the frequency of your choosing to spend and do with them. So by nature, it's built that way. And the more you spend, the more you fly, the greater recognition you get, the greater perks you get. And with each level, more is added on to it.
Okay.
So let me give you kind of like a peculiar example.
Yeah.
I try to be a very friendly and appreciative frequent flyer. There are a lot that are not.
Sure.
Okay, so the downside of this is that you create this class system, and there's the golly. Okay, we did not practice that word. This is about to get really fun.
Yeah.
There's an entitlement. Okay, what does the word entitlement mean, Daryl?
I would think just that I deserve something based on who I am or what I've done.
Okay, so I was in a city north of us. I have been traveling off and on for about 6 days, and we had a delayed flight, which happens. And with United Airlines, I get to board really, really early. Like, I mean, the pilot's up.
I was going to say before the pilot. Right.
No, the pilot's on board, and the preferred boarding for early boarders, but then I'm right there, okay? There was a gentleman who, it was a narrow way, where they had all the ropes and stuff. And so I thought I politely asked to get by the gentleman that was standing there so that I could board the plane when they said my group was boarding. And in a very profound way, he goes, "Entitled much?"
Okay.
And at first I was offended. It's like, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm entitled. And then I thought, well, if entitled means deserving something earned, I don't mean the current entitlement. I mean, like, entitlement is that I did this, therefore I get this, right?
Sure.
That is what, and we'll like pop the definition of entitlement.
Yeah.
But anyway, if that's what entitlement means, then I should have said yes.
Right.
What I said was, well, this is my 6-day traveling, and kept walking.
Sure.
There were other things I wanted to say, but
Good for you for holding.
chose to woo and not poo.
Well done.
But, so, was I being entitled? Yes. Was I wanting to do it at the expense of that person? No. If that person had flown as much as me or more, they would have been invited to board at the same time. Is it the right thing to do? Like, socially, I don't have argument with it, because if you've flown more than me and you get to get your luggage on there fastly, to me, there's so many pain points with traveling. I think it's a pretty brilliant deal. So, the point is that, don't you want to make the experience great for everyone, but definitely as best as possible for those who invest the most in you? So why would you not create your own frequent flyer program for your business, whatever that might look like?
Yeah, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about the conversation we had at the outset of this, of table stakes. Everybody gets to get on that plane.
Yeah.
Everybody's safely there. Everybody gets their bag of nuts or chips or whatever, and their beverage, and so those are the table stakes, and then there's an opportunity to win Ed Howie over and over based on your loyalty, right? To understand, hey, this guest is different, that perhaps I handle them differently, and so
let me tell. So can I tell you some ways they do that?
Yeah, I was examples. Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds bougie and everything. Okay, whatever. But I guess it is.
Yeah.
But there's also been a lot of time invested in travel, and them and buying their services and choosing one versus the other based on the situation. Right. Well, here's some things they do. One is, okay, we mentioned early boarding. Okay, the more loyal customer, the easier it is to board the plane, get your luggage stowed, and get in your seat. Okay. Second is that there can be discounts and perks given to them, giving to frequent travelers based on their frequency. So the more loyal customers, you want to keep basically inspiring that behavior. So, like, for example, I can get a companion ticket or a companion upgrade for anyone traveling with me when I travel. I happen to be fortunate to be invited into a very special part of United Frequent Flyers, and I'm extremely grateful for that. There have been times when, on a tight connection, that a Jaguar has, and a United representative too, with the driver, have met me like at the door of the plane.
Wow.
And put me in the Jaguar and driven me to the other plane.
Right.
Okay. Now, I still don't know how I got that, and I am thankful for every day that exists. But wow, I mean, talk about, like, when it comes down to my next buying decision, again, the universal applicability of this. In what ways are you driving your most loyal customers around your business, their experience with a Jaguar?
Right.
And a funny but cool story about this that I shared on social media a couple of months ago. Someone met me on a very early flight. It was so early that it was early connection that I wasn't even like thinking, look for it. Right. I come off the plane, and the person's standing there with my name, and I look over and see the Jaguar. I'm like, no way. I did feel like I won the lottery.
Yeah.
That's all. Right. I'm like, sweet. So what happened is so we go down there, and the gentleman's putting my bag in the car, and we're standing there, and the United agent goes, "You want a selfie?" You want a picture?
Right.
And I was like, yeah. I said, as long as it's a selfie. And she said, you want to send it? I'm like, heck yeah.
Right.
They were as giddy as I was. That the sun was coming over Houston, everything. So here's the cool thing, Daryl. So, the airplanes, you've got all kinds of people doing all different things to make it all work. One is the baggage handlers, the people that have the little tractors and have the trailers and are moving the luggage back and forth. They are not customer-facing representatives, right? They do not typically interact with the customer.
Right.
Before we take the photo, we hear, wait for me, and this dude in an orange vest with the little tractor thing drives up, carefully, safely, parks it slowly, jumps off, jumps in the picture. I take the selfie, and we got this selfie of these 4 grown adults being giddy about this experience.
And you're telling the story about it, right? I mean, the interesting thing is that these, little intentional moments end up being, valuable stories to a loyal customer.
I think what we would say is it takes the mundane, which air travel is mundane, and makes it magical.
Right.
But it was here's the point, though, Daryl. It was magical for them, too.
Right.
And it's like, okay, of all the baggage that he handled, I don't know, maybe that's his shtick or whatever, and he does it all the time. Maybe he drives, I'm being a little silly, maybe he drives around just looking for selfie. I don't think so. But he's not customer facing.
Right.
So imagine a frequent flyer program for our businesses that involves both the customer facing and non-customer facing, to where they get so excited not only to do it, but to participate in it. You got a winning formula. And so, entitlement or not, I believe there is brilliance in the way airlines, when done effectively, create, manage, and foster customer loyalty.
Sure.
In amazing ways.
Yeah. Now, in prior episodes, we've talked about that, there's an execution element of everything. We've talked about, making, essentially the mundane magical, right? The presupposition of this, of course, is you got to execute the basics, right? Like, you're choosing to put 2.5 million miles or 1.5 million miles on these airlines. Yes, you need to get to places, but you've got your choice of carriers.
I do.
And so the presupposition on this is, first of all, that they have executed well enough to earn even consideration, right? So
if they lost my baggage all the time, that kind of thing, I wouldn't be flying them, no matter the status.
Right. So over and above that, right? So that, again, back in this narrative of table stakes, right? Some of the table stakes is execute well, and we've talked about in prior episodes that, what WOOO is as an acrostic, namely that it's well orchestrated, it's, well operationalized, it's well optimized. And the opposite of that is poorly done in all of those things. So that is kind of the additive side of this.
That's right.
And so, I think I would say, first of all, assuming that the table stakes operationally are done there, these guys aren't doing this perfectly, right? And so it's not that it's done perfectly, it's that it's done.
Yes,
right?
It's that, okay, so the principle of WOOO is well orchestrated, well operationalized, well optimized, like you said. Know what the customer wants or needs, have a way to do it, and do it over and over again. Okay, so let me give you 2 examples that actually occurred the same day, traveling with that airline. And it was United, and I'm Global Services, and I'm very appreciative and thankful for it. So in the airline system, as I understand it, I've never fully seen the screen they look at. Well, maybe once or twice. But anyway, when you're boarding, it tells the gate agent your status.
Okay.
So they
know that.
Yes. Yeah. So they can say, Mr. Howie, thank you for being global with us. Or thank you for being diamond or silver. Or they can even just say, thank you, Mr. Howie, for flying with us.
Well, and that's a neat example, by the way. We've talked about systems and processes.
Right. So what
a great example.
They have operationalized it. It's still up to the individual employee's behavior to choose whether or not to greet me by name. Their employee has the ability to greet every single employee by name once they have visibility or scanned your boarding pass.
Sure.
How many do?
Yeah, I wouldn't
some days more than other. But here's the reality, and this is not a slam on United Airlines. This is the reality of business, that we talk about well and poorly, not perfectly and imperfectly, right?
Sure.
Because it all comes down. The day I was with it, I had 3 people on the tarmac who were all in on wooing me.
Right.
And then I had a gate agent on the next flight who didn't choose to acknowledge me. Now, am I going to not fly the airline? Now, there's Reddit boards and stuff where you'll have arrogant, frequent travelers that I abhor, but I also try to do just the opposite.
Right.
We're like, oh, they didn't acknowledge me, whatever.
Yeah.
Anything done extra is like, hey, I'm thankful for it. But what I'm saying is, it all comes down to what? The ultimate intention and behavior of the employee.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the cool magic. Yeah, riding in a Jaguar is magical. And frankly, someone just acknowledge you by name is magical. Studies show that is magical to use people's names. But here's the thing. For them to be magical with a Jaguar or me joining the gate, they were using the same system. That United employee looked at all the global services people that were arriving, looked at all the connections, and looked at the distance between connections, and for whatever reason, chose to pick me up, and probably in that situation chose not to pick someone else up because they had a less of a walk.
Yeah.
Even the magical still has to be well orchestrated, well operationalized, and well optimized. And in that case, it was that and more.
At one point here today have said, look, the reality is our community doesn't own an airline company.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it might be easy or tempting to say, yeah. That's not
airline.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important for us to say, okay, as a traveler and as business leaders, what are we taking away? So it strikes me that what we're taking away is certainly an understanding that people have different stages in their customer journey with your brand, with my brand, with your brand. Different stages in customer journey ranging from trial all the way, maybe even not even aware of it, all the way to trial and, up to, they're rooting for you. And so we kind of tease out the idea that it's a little bit provocative that you might even just consider that you're going to treat your customers differently. We also talked about there are table stakes that are certainly required, and then there's this execution element of, hey, even if you have understood the table stakes and you're executing those, you've got this, we've playfully called it a caste system, but at least a sense of understanding where people are in the customer journey. How do you honor them? How do you treat them in a way that is their Jaguar experience in your business? So Ed, we covered a lot of ground. Holy smokes. I hope that our community sees application to not anonymize the customer. We've talked in past episodes about see the customer, right? And so I hope that our community is seeing there is actually great insight in understanding the customer, and even if data would provide it or pursuing that data, how you can handle that customer differently.
Well, and you just mentioned data. Is that take a pause and think, do we actually already know that information?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it may be you have a multi-million-dollar CRM, or maybe you just go into QuickBooks and do a sort of sales by customer.
Right.
You know what I mean? But with all the data out there.
Yeah, or your team knows these. They know your customers. So amazing application. I hope and pray that this, as always, has been valuable to you, our community, because we really, really do believe that this episode, that this podcast generally can help you serve others well. That's the intent, that it's cascading beyond just you as the leader, that it's cascading to your customer, or to your team and to your customer. At every time,
and to that point though, is life is more enjoyable for everyone when it happens.
Yeah, you get to take selfies on the tarmac, right?
Exactly.
At every time we wrap this thing up, you like saying the same phrase, and what is that?
That is that everyone wants WOOO, and nobody wants poo.
Indeed. We appreciate your time. We look forward to spending time with you on our next episode. Until then, take care.
So that's it for today's episode of The Wonder of Woo. Head on over to Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to subscribe to our show. One lucky listener every single week who posts a review on Apple Podcasts will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 value private VIP day with Daryl and me. Be sure to head on over to thewonderofwoopodcast.com and pick up a free copy of our gift. And please join us next time.